The Unitree G1 is here. This is the G1 EDU Ultimate B, sent to me, a dream come true, through an advisory role I have with a company called Lucky Robots, which is aiming to accelerate simulated robotics training. Despite my best efforts, I have no affiliation with Unitree, but I have very badly wanted to check out both their quadrupeds and now their humanoids. This particular G1 was purchased through RoboStore in the United States at the suggestion of Unitree. Apparently they're the US distributor. It took about 1.5 months to receive the robot after purchase, but we still don't yet have the remote controller or the gantry, which the gantry is used to suspend the robot semi-safely so you can do like R&D. The remote is supposedly on the way, and then through a little bit of back and forth, the gantry is too. Unitree made it clear to us that the gantries come with all of the G1 EDU variants, but RoboStore did disagree with us at first, and so there was a little bit of back and forth there, and then later they said they will send one, so we'll see. But if you're going to buy a G1, find out about the gantry, because that's like $1,500. On the topic of price, you may have seen the G1 from Unitree is $16,000. That is the simplest base model, and also before like taxes, tariffs, all of that. That model, even that base model to your door, in the United States at least, is going to be more like $24,000. That said, the base model has no functional hands. Like the hands that you see are just like empty gloves. And then there's no secondary development, so no SDK. I'm sure if you're a true wizard, you could get in there and get into the internals and hack your way through it and still control it and all that. But that's not what it's meant for. It's really that $24,000 version or the $16,000 version is really just like a demo with a remote control that kind of showcases what you could do if you had the EDU variant. So beyond the basic version, you have the base EDU variant, which you can program with the Unitree SDK. But you still have no functional hands. It's just those empty gloves. And then you have the ultimate EDU variants, which have some version of hands. And this could be the DEX 3-in-1s. There is some new DEX 5-in-1s. I don't think you can get them on the robot yet, at least at the time of my recording, but I'm sure they're coming. There's two versions of the DEX 3-in-1s. One, it has tactile sensors, one does not. And then you also have a version of the EDU Ultimate that comes with the Inspire hands. The version that we have here is the Unitree G1 EDU Ultimate B. Also, sometimes this is referred to as the G1 EDU U4 in some of the documentation. And so again, that is with the DEX 3-in-1 hands with the tactile sensors. The price from Unitree is like if you flew to China and paid cash or something, it's $56,900 at the time of my recording. But after taxes and tariffs in the United States, you would expect to pay mid-60s, if not multiples of that, depending on what day of the week it is and what the current tariffs are at the moment. Hopefully by the time you're watching this, we won't have so much craziness going on. Of course, that is still a ton of money, but basically Unitree is the only company that is actually shipping fully functional humanoids to your door. There are a lot of humanoid companies out there with like really good looking demos and everything like that, but Unitree is the only one actually shipping them, which is pretty important. About 3 seconds after trying to manipulate the G1 manually, you are going to likely desire for a gantry, hoist, or lift of some sort. Due to the aforementioned gantry mishap, I didn't get one just yet, so I have temporarily repurposed a game hanger for the situation. The unboxing process is relatively straightforward, but the robot itself is much heavier than you might think. The G1 is 4.5 feet tall, even though it is, yes, folded up, fully assembled in that suitcase, right? It's 4.5 feet tall, which is about 135 centimeters, but it is a dense 135 centimeters. It is about 85 pounds or 38 kilograms, and pulling it out is comically tough. And it's equally comically tough trying to put it into a chair, like seat it into a chair, as the manual suggests that you do. Good luck with that. I did kind of get it, but yeah, that's a tough one. I'm also pretty sure all G1s come with a remote controller. I don't quite yet have my controller, but I am told it is on the way. I'm not too concerned about the remote controller since mostly I want to like program and develop with the bot, but the remote controller has certain niceties like being able to emergency stop the robot as well as enter into debug mode, which is useful especially for lower level control and such. I think I can actually do all of those things without the remote, but it's only documented with the remote, so it would be nice to have. Also, if you don't get a gantry from Unitree or Robostore with your order, I actually think the best option, rather than buying it separately for $1,600 or $1,500 or whatever it is a Hoyer lift. These are used in the medical field to aid people who can't walk. It's about half the price, and I think it might even be better.
Oh, this is so wrong. Oh. I mean, it feels so wrong, and yet it works.
On to the G1 itself. Everything is a sort of brushed metal. It looks and feels like good quality. The feet have a sort of roll side to side and then an up and down capability similar to likely your foot and ankle. Then you have a knee and it does knee things. The thighs have a rotational capability, I'd guess like 320 degrees or something like that. It's actually pretty significant. The hips are exceptionally nimble out to the side, basically a full 180 degrees of motion there. It's pretty gnarly. And then also forward and back for altogether some pretty insane flexibility. The torso is also what feels like something over 300 degrees of rotation. I might be off there, but it's significant. The Dex 3-in-1 hands have thumbs that rotate a little bit, and then each of the three fingers has essentially two pivot points or knuckles. The wrists have a motor for both side to side and front to back, considerable amount in both of those. And then also the wrists themselves have rotation there. Again, something like 300 degrees or something like that. And then the elbows have more or less what I think you would find in a human range of motion with maybe a little bit of extra distension. And then the shoulders rotate something like 300 degrees. They swing up and down. And then also the arm just below the shoulder pivots. All in all, the robot seemingly can get into just about any position a human can, and then some extra stuff. The head has RGB in-depth cameras along with a 3D LiDAR. And then, when I was trying to show the ports on the back of the neck, essentially 4 USB-Cs and 2 LAN, I found out that the head also can look up and down a bit. I didn't even know that. I don't see that listed as degrees of freedom or as a motor. So I don't actually know if that's like an addressable thing or not. But okay, the head also goes forward and back a bit.
Okay, so the robot has degrees of freedom. We get it. How is actually developing on the Unitree G1? So first of all, videos like this are exceptionally challenging for me because my mindset in making videos in the past has always been make the video that you would have wanted to see. And it's true. I really like when I'm looking at these robots, I have been fascinated by the Unitree robots for a very long time. Like as far as like high-end robots are concerned, beyond like drones, but like high-end like developer focused type robots, I've really wanted them, but it's so unclear like okay, if I spend all that money, what can it really do? You know, because you see demos, like I'm sure you've seen demos of these guys like doing backflips. Can we really do backflips, right? So the question is not just can it do one backflip and then like how after how many attempts, how successful can it do a backflip? But then the other question is, okay, can it do 100 backflips without breaking a tooth off of some gear and now the robot is broken? You know, like I don't know. And until you get your hands on it and start working with it, you don't really have any idea for like, what can it really do? Is it worth these tens of thousands of dollars, or is it really just to gain experience on the humanoid form factor? And then the idea is to just keep going over time, or what is it? Because at the end of the day too, this is the only one you can buy. You can't buy other humanoids right now, other than very, very heavy, like, you know, maybe some plans that you could like put together sort of a humanoid. But really, in terms of like whole package humanoids, this is it. This is the one that you can buy. I think you can also buy the H1, but I forget what the price is, but it's very expensive. So this is it. And so anyway, yeah, let me know below if you have an opinion on like what kind of the content here would you like to see, because I am cognizant that there's very few people, at least right now, who are interested in buying, like really going to go out and get a humanoid robot, right? But maybe your university might, or maybe or maybe you want your university to or something. So like, I don't know. So let me know about below, like what is this type, what do you want to see from the humanoid? But I'm just going to be kind of sort of documenting my process up to this point with the robot. So anyways, in terms of documentation, there's like multiple categories here. So first of all, this is the manual for the robot, but actually this is double the size of the manual because half of it is English, half of it is Chinese. So actually the manual is this. It's 28 pages. It needs to be more than 28 pages. This is a very in-depth and advanced robot. It needs more than 28 pages. There is also online documentation here. And in the past, when I've played with robotics, I will admit that, like the documentation for robotics is historically bad. Like it's very bad. So in relative to other robotics that I've played with in the past, I would say Unitree is rank 1. Like there is a lot of development here. There is a lot of documentation here, a lot of great information, but still I don't personally feel like you could read this and then start programming the robot personally. There's like a lot of like back forth R&D. Now, if you're like a really good C++ dev and you can like look at their examples and then adapt that to your own stuff, then maybe. But here's the problem. I'm not a C++ dev. I'm not even a really good dev at anything. So like, how do you get into robots like this? And that's why nowadays I've been using Codex, which every time you guys see me, it's a different model, it's a different architecture, it's a different agent. But lately I've been using Codex, which is OpenAI's surprisingly, shockingly open source agent framework that runs in your terminal. And personally for me, I like the terminal form factor a ton. But anyway, I don't think this matters that you can see this. Anyway, I think that's just literally a session idea. So I've been using this, and this has helped me to finally get to the state that I want to be in. So let's talk about that, because I know it's so tough, like especially from like where I'm sitting, like with like LLMs, like the topic of like, are they helping or hurting, or are you learning or aren't you learning with LLMs? No, I'm definitely learning with LLMs. Like first of all, there is no way I would have been able to program this without either an LLM helping me to convert. So what I did with this is I asked it to build a Python API for me. And then through the building of that API, I learned a bunch of details about this robot that like, I just don't think I would have learned, like, or it would have taken me weeks to figure out. And instead it took me like an hour, which is just, it's insane. It's insane. So, so first let's talk about the official examples. So if you come here and you go to SDK overview potentially, sometimes, or was that where I was? Sometimes these pages are, yeah, it's so weird. It'll like load and then maybe it's JavaScript or something. I don't really know. And then it like loads up these. Again, I'm not really a developer. But anyways, the SDK is on GitHub. So here's your link to that. So you can come here. Also, the robot itself, it has like communication ports on the back. If, again, like it wasn't very clearly explained, like how that works. So like, for example, you come, let me think here. Let's go to About G1 potentially, and then I'm going to try to scroll down and get to where, yeah. So I did eventually find this diagram. This is the one that I'm interested in. And, like if you have a half of a brain, you probably could figure out what you're looking at here. But, I'm reading this, I just read the right side of the G1. Okay, so I'm looking at the right side of the G1, and I'm like, well, this is the battery. So I'm looking on the other side, and it does have like a port over here, but it looks like almost like for like power, like if you wanted to not use a battery. Which also, I wish the robot shipped with like a thing that you could just hardwire to a plug. So when you're doing R&D, you're not killing a battery cycle, because this is not, what is it? Lithium iron phosphate. It's just a lithium ion battery. So you're only going to get so many charge cycles out of this. If you're using this daily, it's going to last like a year or two or something like that before you would really want to replace it, because then the runtime is going to be degraded. So anyway, I digress. Anyway, so I'm looking on the right side of the robot, and yeah, no, it's actually on the neck, but it's covered. It was covered by like another piece of like rubberized, whatever, form-fitting rubberized stuff, and it just wasn't clear like that's where the plugs are. And it was only after I like hung it up and I started digging around, I'm like, oh, this is what it's talking about. So anyway, if you get one, it's on the back and there's some like rubberized stuff that you can just pull off. And then that I have hooked up to an Ethernet cable that goes all the way to my main computer. I have 2 LAN ports. One is set up to communicate with this guy, and then the other one is set up for internet communications and home network, all that stuff. There's a million ways that you could set this up. If you're concerned about security, set it up on like a separate network. Like, yeah, don't connect it to your main security network. Okay, that's just good practice all across the board. The other thing is it does. So this has 2. Well, actually, I think it has 3, possibly more computers. But mainly they mostly reference 2 computers. One is the actual Unitree G1 computer, and then if you have the EDU onward, you've got a secondary computer that is the Jetson Orin NX, I think. And then that's the computer that you'll interact with the SDK, and then that controls the G1 through probably a very proprietary algorithm, I'm guessing. But I will say, I know on like the quadrupeds, for example, everything operates. If you did program it, you would use this SDK. And my understanding is with the quadrupeds, they're actually all just a Raspberry Pi, and it's literally just checking what is the model number, like what kind of model do you have. So if you don't have the EDU quadruped, all you need to do is like clone the SDK and make a small modification, and then you can program it, I believe. Whereas here, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that if you want to program it, you're either going to need to do quite a bit more effort on the true base model, or you need to buy the EDU model. So anyway, keep that in mind as well. So anyways, yes, here's the SDK. Lots of great information here. So if you come here, you can go straight to their examples. And a lot of times, I will admit, like the way I learn to work with a lot of software is I just go to the examples. So then we'll go to G1. I don't know what the heck. Why is this going so slow? I do my internet. I have Starlink, and if the weather is like super rain, like very rainy, like my speed goes slow, but like my weather is not that bad. Like, come on. I don't know why it's going so slow. So we have various examples. You have high level and low level. So on this robot, for example, my way of thinking about, okay, how will I interact with this robot? It is unlikely we are going to make a custom gate algorithm that runs in Python, okay? I can recognize that Python is not your man for that, right? And so through somewhere in the documentation that I've read, the cycle, the compute cycle, I guess is what I would call it. I don't know. It's like a 2 millisecond loop. And so that is the rate at which you want to communicate and hit that, I think it's called the DDS, the Data Distribution System. But anyway, I'm probably wrong on that. Anyway, that's on a 2 millisecond loop. I would never trust Python to interact on a 2 millisecond, deterministic style loop. So all those like really low level things like keeping this robot balanced, I think you want to keep that in C++. But for higher level stuff, like there's a lot of higher level commands like what height do you want the torso at? Where would you like the hand's position in space to be? Well, if you want to raise the torso, you're going to be working with probably the ankle, the knee, a little bit of the hips. So it's like one command, but it moves multiple motors. Well, so like those high level commands, you're just sending that to the robot and the robot's like figuring it out in C++. So sending the command, that could definitely be done in Python. There's no reason it shouldn't be Python, and it would be easier in Python. So like if we go and look at let's look at the high level stuff. Like for example, the high level, I'll open 2 examples. So I'm going to open that high level loco client because that basically you could control your whole robot with this. This essentially makes like a CLI that you just send commands to over CLI. And that's why I saw that and I was like tinkering with that and I was like, well, at the very basic, you could have a Python API that just queries that CLI. And then also you have G1 low level. This is the example that they have you run. And I'll show this example just working. So if you get it and you want to run this example, I'll kind of go through the process you have to think about when you do that. But anyways, yeah, even here, like you look at this ankle swing and it's like, again, I'm not a real programmer. I just program Python. So like all of this stuff, this is just pointless, just garbage. I don't need that. Yuck, disgusting. And it's not until you get to line 305 that it's like, okay, this is the logic of the ankle swing. Everything before that is just a whole bunch of definitions. and it like, ugh, that's not me. I need it. I want it to be in Python. And if I wanted something in C++, I'm still going to use a language model to like help me write that C++. And then don't forget your main loop that you have to have in C++. So, okay. So anyways, I'm sorry. C++ is amazing. Python sucks. Okay. So yeah, that's your basic example. And then here you've got this like loco client, and this is like the higher level. And actually, I think this is a much shorter script even. I'm sorry, making sure you can actually even see it. Anyway, so it's a little simpler, and then this gives you some idea of like some of the higher level commands that you can immediately do. I'm trying to see if like wave is in here. I don't see wave in here yet. Shake hand. Oh, there's wave. Okay, cool. So I've seen like most of those. So anyway, there's all these like high level things that have already been coded. And then later, if there is some action that you really wanted to do, but it doesn't exist yet, you could code that up in C++, sure. But then you call it with Python. And that's really what I wanted to do, is add a Python layer. So the question was, is that doable? Can we actually interact with Python, with this robot somehow? And the answer is yes. But I want to kind of run through some of the things I learned trying to do that, because there's some finicky things about the robot. So first of all, it is already plugged in. I'm going to plug in the battery and fire this bad boy up, and we'll talk about some of the little quirks and features of the G1. So you slide in that battery. Oh, sometimes it's hard to get it to clip in there, but then you turn it on just like you would turn on like a DJI drone, like you press, and then you press and hold. Like you like hit it, not too fast. It's like maybe a press for a second, and then press and hold. So it boots up. If I don't lose it, if I don't like end up just tearing out an Ethernet cable at some point in this process, I'll be amazed. So it boots up. I do have it on this game hanger. My thinking with like development is you have to get to the point where you can do like a whole loop safely. Like, so my mindset here was, how can I get myself to the point where I can safely do R&D on this robot and not risk the robot falling over and it sounds funny, but yeah, like hitting its head and like breaking the head, for example, or any other parts. So, because the robot, I mean, it's 4.5 feet tall. It's a dense 35 kilograms, 85 pounds, whatever you want to call it. It could do some damage to itself and things around. So it's important that you have some sort of safe development loop. So I think there's like many ways that you could start the robot. You could start the robot lying on a flat ground and then get up. But I feel like there's like lots of little things that could go wrong in that process. So then I'm thinking, okay, you could also start from a chair, which some of the documentation suggests. But I think the safest place to start is from a hanger, and that's also the safest place to stop. Because when you finally do turn the robot off, it just becomes like a wet noodle that weighs, again, 35 kilograms. And if you just turn it off, it's going to the floor. It's going to fall on your foot. It's not going to feel good. So my thinking was, okay, I need to get to the point where I can program this thing, because I also don't have the remote. So the remote is like theoretically on the way, but you should be able to do everything via the program anyways. And yeah, even if I have the remote, it will be a nice to have thing to like fall back on. But even if I had the remote, I would much rather just have a piece of software that executes the commands in the succession that I would like them to be executed. Like it would be easier that way. So I know that's where I want to get. So what I want to get to the point of is the robot stands here. It's damp when you first turn it on. You want to get to the point where it's balancing itself, okay? And then you could unhook the hanger if you want it to like move around. Or you could leave it hooked up if you're just going to do things with the arms or the hands or whatever. Or if you're going to do very slow motions and you want to move this. Once I have the gantry that moves with the robot, we can also move the gantry with the robot if he's going to walk. So you do all that, but then when you're all said and done, you would like the ability to bring the robot right back, hook back up to the hanger, lock the hanger, and then turn the robot off, right? And that would be a full development loop. So the goal was to get to that point. Okay, so with that in mind, the first thing that we can do is I can actually show, we'll show the first base example. So once you've done the SDK, you can come over to quick development. And then basically, you clone the repository, you do the builds, all that stuff, and then you can run the examples. Like as long as the examples are in the builder, you can run them. So here, this would be the example, and it says the example interface name. The other thing too is make sure you can access, if you have the robot, you need to set up the subnet for 123. So Of the computers, you have you've got 192, 168, 123, 161. I want to say is the actual robot. This is the internal computer. You're not going to be able to access that, at least not out the gate. Then you also have ping 192, 168, 123, 164. That is the secondary development board. That is the NVIDIA Nano Jetson. No, the NVIDIA Jetson Orin NX? I don't know. The names are so hard to keep up with. They come up with a new name every time. And then, so that also means you can SSH into Unitree, that's the username, at 192.168.123.164, and the password it ships with is 123. Again, very shortly, as soon as possible, you should be changing that password to something else. This is a sudoer on that computer. So this, you can enter into root on this computer. So anybody who could receive access to this could be root, okay? On a machine, potentially on your network. So, okay. Anyway, exit out of there. Don't forget to change that password. Same thing with the Go robots and stuff like that. Some people, I've seen about the Go 2 that had like a tunneling through, I can't remember the name of the thing. But anyway, yeah, like you're at the whim of somebody either being stupid or malicious. And so, yeah, if it's connected to your network, a good rule of thumb is to just always assume someone has access to everything that's on your network. So get it off the network. Anyway, moving on. Okay, so what I want to do is run this basic example first. So coming on down here, and then the interface name, in my case, I always forget. It's a long string. Wired settings. So in this case, the interface name is this one. So this is my main internet, and then this is the secondary port, and this is what we will be communicating to our G1 over, at least for now. EMP68SOF1. And again, you can eventually put all this software on the Orin, right? And then you can have Wi-Fi, and then you would just, now you communicate with that piece of machinery over shell or something like that, and that's it. Okay, so if you have, so this is like my whole directory with like all the work that I've been doing so far. This is the API that I built. These are some examples, all that. So ignore everything. If you get cloned the Unitree SDK, it would go here. So then we can bop into there. And then once you've built this out, let's see, Unitree, build, bin, and then these are all the built C++, again, classic C++. Every time you want to change anything, now you got to build it. And these are the examples, that basically all the examples for all the robots. But we're interested in that G1, and then the example that we're going to run is this example ankle swing. So I'm just going to go back into this directory since that's what the command is. So we will copy that, open up a terminal, make sure you can see it. And to run that most basic thing, the interface name, where are my settings? Here they are, beautiful. The interface name is ENP680. Wait, oh my gosh, I'm getting hungry. I need to go eat something. F1, okay, cool. Now he is hanging, but currently I have the hanger set at a height that I would like to start the other routine at. In this case, we're going to be flexing the ankles. So I'm actually going to put him up a little bit just so he's like fully suspended and we can show that. So one moment, please. I don't need him lurching at me. We'll also shift him over here. There we go. Face the camera, buddy. Don't be shy. Okay, now because it's a live demo, it's definitely not going to work, but we'll see. So let's go ahead and run it. We'll see what happens. Oh, I thought it really wasn't going to work. What was that about, boy? Okay, so it kind of goes through three states. It does like an initialization state, and then it goes into a preparation state, and then finally it just stays in this state forever. So it's just going to continue rolling the feet back and forth and back and forth. But essentially it shows you that, okay, things are finally working. If you're able to ping, you're able to run this, you know things are working, and then you can go from there and begin to actually like build stuff. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stop this. He's going to go damp. Yep. And then I'm going to lower him back down. Maybe. Here we go. just enough that he hopefully can weight up those feet. I thought I had it locked. Ugh. There we go. Okay, hopefully that's enough for him to be able to stand later. You'll see what I'm talking about. So now I want to talk about the actual API. So once you get this working, okay, that's fine. But there's a whole lot of like little details that you might not know. Like, and again, I don't see this documented anywhere. So one of the hardships was, okay, so I've tried to adapt this to a Python API and start finding like it just isn't working. Like it just simply, it'll get damp, but then it never like gets to like a balanced walking state. And trying to figure out like why is that was really difficult. And I don't think it's documented anywhere, but eventually we as in me and Codex, what we found is the feet have to be on like stable ground and enough pressure on those feet before the robot will accept your demand of entering into a balanced state. And then there's the balanced state, and then there's the, okay, now that you're in a balanced state, now walk and go do stuff. And those two things were just trips where it's like, okay, I thought I got into this like situation I wanted to be in, but now I'm issuing commands and it's not working. Well, you have to issue things in very specific orders, and you can't jump from like one state to another state. You have to go through certain states. And I just couldn't figure that out until finally trying to make the API and then realizing where things are going wrong. And it was really just O3 walking through a bunch of examples and kind of like piecing things together. So, for example, so we have the API. Let's see, if this is my documentation. Yeah, this will be my documentation. I'm probably even going to update this a little bit. And so the API was built, and then actually, again, this is O3. I didn't write this. I just had, hey, you need to write this documentation so I can understand like what goes on. So we basically have, C++ wrapper with a Python facade. And then, we can issue a whole bunch of commands that makes it, way easier to work with, in my opinion. So if we come over here, for example, this is a very basic script. Hold on. And yes, this is 101 lines, but it's actually heavily documented. So it's much shorter. So now it's like so much more easy to work with this, in my opinion. Like I can see what's going on so much more clearly when I look at this script. So again, just a little helper function. Okay, we turn it on. We go into damp mode. Damp mode, as I understand it, essentially is like it just sort of fights gravity such that it won't just like crumple to the floor at 9.8 meters per second squared. It will slow its descent. So it's a good starting. And then we have the robot stand up. But stand up isn't actually like balance. It's actually just simply it's like stand up, but it's a stupid stand. It will fall over. And then this is the function or the loop basically that we go through to slowly extend the legs till it gets to the point where it could enter into a balance stand. So it just keeps extending those legs until finally it's like, okay, we're good, and it pops out into a balance stand. I'm still a little confused, like why this continues to work, because it like prints out the height. So then I'm like thinking, okay, well now that I know the height, can I just enter that height into like a static like bot.set height to that height, right? I tried to do that and that did not work. So I don't quite understand, okay, well why can't I just set that height one time? Like why do I have to do this custom every single time? But apparently I do. I don't really know. Cool. And then finally, so I still have to figure out why is that still working? Because like when I look at this, it doesn't try to balance stand until this hits some sort of number, but I don't quite understand like why does that finally pop it out and allow it to stand. So anyways, I'm still trying to figure that out because like I said, I tried to set like a static height multiple times and it will not go into a balance stand without the loop. And the loop makes sense, but then when I'm looking at the Python code, I'm still confused like, okay, well why do I need that loop? So anyway, if it's like I have been at this for so long and like really this is more of a side project than a main project. So like maybe I'm missing something super obvious, but anyway, I'm almost embarrassed to post this video because to me, I look at this and I'm like, why is that necessary? But anyway, moving on. Finally, you get into a balanced stand position. and then we issue the stand height here. And then you can finally enter into the continuous gait. Now, balanced stand means it will stand there and be balanced. So you can push it and pull it, and you can kind of guide the robot in that state. So that's the kind of ending state before I would so I would end on probably balanced stand. And then you can kind of walk the robot back to the hangar, hook it back up, then turn it off. And so anyway, so it gets into this balanced stand. Okay, dog really thought it was necessary to make a ton of noise. Anyways, so we get in that balance stand. Okay, you set the stand height, and then you enter into continuous gait. And then I think you can begin to walk like you see here. But one thing I found is, or we found, is if you enter continuous gait, you will pop out of continuous gait if you don't do something quickly. So it's like a safety mechanism. Same as the safety mechanism that it won't enter a balanced stand without enough force on the foot to enter balanced stand. It will decide. And so anyway, that took a while to figure out that how the heck do I get into this balanced stand state? And then when you're in that balanced stand state, you might think, okay, you go into continuous gait and then you can start moving, right? And so you think my thinking, the reason why I stumbled on this is I entered in continuous state, but then because I don't have a movable gantry, I wanted to be able to make sure that he had enough space in front of him to start walking. And so in order to do that, I need to let him get up, because sometimes he gets up and you'll see in a moment, it's a little hectic. And then I wanted to move him backwards and then allow him to walk forward. So I wanted to be able to just press enter to get him to walk forward. And he just wasn't walking forward. I was like, whoa, what is going on? And then, it comes out that, we slowly, me and O3 figure out that, it's because he popped back out of continuous gait, and it's like a safety thing. So, okay, with that in mind, let's go ahead and show some of the examples. We'll start with R&D, and then we'll do the actual R&D walk forward so you can see that working too. Let me remind myself, this is locked, yes. Okay, we're ready to do the continuous gait. So what's going to happen is he's going to go into damp, and he's going to slowly try to stand himself up. And then finally, when he determines that he has enough pressure on those feet, he will enter into the balance stand state. So let's give that a shot. We'll come over here. Again, live demo, so it's probably not going to work. We'll probably discover another issue, but we'll see what happens. So Python 310 rnd.py. And so initially, he'll go into damp mode. And part of me wants to just move him back a little bit. Oh, get back there. Okay. Hopefully that'll clear up. Good. All right, so we'll run it. Maybe. I'm not sure what he's doing now. I'm not sure. Did we leave? Is the other thing still running potentially? No. I actually don't know why that. I knew that wasn't going to work. We are still connected. Ping 192.168.123.164. Yeah. Okay. Let me just do a restart on him. Maybe there's some other issue. I'm not really sure. This is classic. Okay, maybe. Let's see. Can we ping it? We can. I want to show this. It's like I'm trying to do a live demo and it just doesn't work for whatever. It's like that's just peak everything for me. But anyway, okay. R&D. Why wouldn't it? I don't even know. Okay, yeah, it is working now. So he's gonna pop in a second. It's everything's fine. He's not actually trying to kill me. There he goes. Okay, so. He is now in balanced standing state. Now he did allegedly, at least in the R&D script, he does allegedly enter into a continuous gait and then go forward a tiny bit for allegedly 2 seconds. I personally don't really see that happening. I would do a little more R&D there, but I'll show you the R&D walk here momentarily. But now he is in a steady state. There's still some force on that hanger, so I'm going to release the hanger slightly to show you he is indeed hanging on his own. But if you give him too much slack, I've seen some stuff. He basically like attacks you. And I've seen him do some wild kicks to like maintain his balance. Yeah, he's pretty crazy. So I try to leave as little slack as possible. Like if he can't get to a standing state, that's okay. Just try again, right? But if he has too much slack, if he started with too much slack and he started from too much of a squat and he's like really far leaned over before he determines he's got a lot of pressure on his foot, he gets a little crazy. So I would like to create a better initialization routine than what we have now, because he can wind up being way too far forward. But anyway, so let me release a little bit for him. Okay, so now it is like this is not doing anything really. We'll give him a little more. Okay, so he is balanced. So if you push him backwards a little bit, like he just kind of solves his problem, and you can bring him forward. It's also pretty cool, like how much, and like he doesn't need to stand always. So like if you push him just a little bit forward, like all of that was done just with the motors without needing to step at all. Like he just fixes his balance, which is pretty good. Like I'm not sure how, like, oh man, that felt so far forward that he's okay. He's so planted. It's pretty crazy. But anyway, yeah, so then you can just kind of walk him around as needed. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put him back somewhat centered. We're going to tighten him back up, and then I'll show the walk. That should be good. I'll show the walk. So where is what happened to my script? Anyway, okay. So he actually is stopped, or he's just in that balanced state. So he would need, again, to do much from here. You could actually now we could send new commands, but again, you would have to send, to my understanding, first continuous gate, then the commands that you want to send, and they need to be in like quick succession. I don't know what the timeout is, but it's not long. It's like probably less than 5 seconds even. So now we'll show the R&D walk. So it's a very similar script. Continuous gate, start, very good. And then here, getting down to here, velocity and duration. Let me show you where that goes in. So bot move. I want to say this really wraps one of the more basic functions from the SDK. I'll have to go back and look. But so this is like forward velocity, I want to say. This is side to side velocity, and then this is angular velocity, and then this is how long, I want to say. Yeah. So this is how long do you actually want to do that? And that was another thing that I got tripped up on, was it really wasn't working until we did continuous true. Yeah, so it's meant to mimic like you've pushed forward the joystick. So again, the robot is expecting very frequent communication, and if at whatever point that communication stops, it's gonna fall back to a previous state. So it has two states. I want to say there's like the FSM state, and then there's like a mode, I want to say. I got to remind myself of this. So we'll come back to that in a second. I'll try to summarize that before I leave. Yeah, so you have the FSM state, and then you have the mode. And those are like two separate things. And again, this should be in the documentation. It probably is, but I never came across it like until you start running examples. And it's like, okay, well, how do I learn those things? You know, so maybe basic movement. Let's just try to see if it can be there, because I don't want to poo on them too much. Like I admit I do jump around, but I'm sorry if I've scrolled by it, but I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. So let me show the walk, and then we'll converse with O3 for a little bit, and we'll probably wrap up the video. So anyway, the walk, I think that's pretty clear. Like we're waiting until essentially we hit the enter key, and then when we finally have hit the enter key with this right here, that's when it will start to walk. But again, in order to walk, in order to do anything, you need these two commands, apparently. I'm still learning. I am not an expert on literally any of this. And the thing that, like I said, like it just continues to amaze me is that it took me like an hour to get to this point with the software. And for me to have gotten there with literally anything else Like especially if I had to keep working in C++, I would have no idea, like, you know, why isn't this working? Am I issuing like totally invalid C++, or like there's no warning that I know of from the robot that like, oh, it doesn't tell you like why it rejected the command. The best thing that you can do is you can query that FSM state, so you can get the state and the mode or whatever, however you should call that. You get the ID. Let's see. So you have the FSM ID and then the mode. I forget even where I just saw that. Was it the output that we're debugging? Yeah. So you get the FSM ID, but then the mode. And I want to say the mode is about the feet. And let me pull up our documentation here to see if we actually wrote that yet. I don't think so, but I think I wrote it out somewhere. I was discussing with it, so I like just figured that part out as well. I just want to show it if I have it. Maybe here? Yeah, so here the walk wasn't working, and then when it thought it was working, okay, it does this, very good. So okay, it keeps going. Right, so if you see mode 0, it means the controller, and that means like the controller, I want to say the actual Unitree robot, is refusing balance mode. If that's true, check your e-stop, your battery level, all that, but that obviously wasn't the problem. Okay, so it did walk, and I wanted to know why is that. So the balance mode, yeah, you have so mode 0 is balance stand. Mode 1 is the continuous gait, and I believe that's this report right here. And so if you tried to enter into one of those modes, you could query and see, are you even in that mode? But that is the extent of the debugging. It won't tell you why you didn't enter that mode, basically. So that can make it kind of difficult. Again, maybe there is a way to like get that information. I don't know yet. But so far that has been my hardship. So now let's go ahead and run the, oh, I was showing you this. I was reading you from this screen, and of course I covered over with my face. Because mostly I want to show the robot. Like, the robot's the cooler part. Anyway, so Python 310 rnd walk.py. So again, it will enter that kind of damp state, and then slowly stand itself up until it can enter the balance state. So I want this just to be somewhere safe. Okay. Good enough. Okay, I think we're good. Let's go ahead and start. So he goes damp. He will slowly start standing up until there's enough force on those feet. There he is. Welcome to the world, little buddy. And now we can push him. I'm going to give him a little more slack. Okay, lock that. Good. I'm going to push him back a little bit. Okay, so he has plenty of room to move forward. He should only move forward just very slightly. But now that we're ready, very good. So he barely moved forward, but that's purely because that is the request. I didn't want him to move a ton forward because he can only work in this space. But at this point, I'm relatively confident I can safely unhook him, do things with him after he's like started up. And then when he's done, he is currently, because we have not issued any further commands, he's in that like standing, I already forget the right word. Is it balance? I want to say he's in the balance stand. So he's in the balance stand, not continuous gait, but balance stand. So he's in that balance stand state. And now we can move him, like if I wanted to move him back to the hangar, I would grab, there's a little handhold behind him. I could just grab that and guide him back to the hangar, put him up on the hangar, and begin to do things. Okay, so like I said earlier, I don't know all the things that I can show you or should show you or that you would be interested in. So yeah, please feel free to let me know down below what exactly you're interested in with the series like this. Moving forward, the things I want to do, I need to make a Python API for the hands. We don't have the hands supported at all yet. I would like to figure out a little bit about arm control because I think there's a better way to get the arms positioned at a certain place in space. So I want to figure that out. And then I also want to get the RGB, the depth, and the 3D LiDAR. I want to get those plugged into my little API. That 3D LiDAR, I'm super excited because I'm like, that's a really nice 3D LiDAR. So I really want to see what can we do with that. So those are like the next major things I want to work on and get to the point where if I do have him, I would like to be able to, like, I just want so many safety fallbacks because I really don't want him to just eat it. So the next thing is, besides having this like super hard, gantry or whatever we might have at the time, it would be really nice to just immediately have that LiDAR layer that can sense things around, so he doesn't just go walking into a wall or whatever. And then also, I have received word finally that the remote is on the way. The gantry, the official gantry, is still a while out. I think it will be months before that comes out. But the remote is on the way, so we will also have an emergency stop on that. I don't know what the emergency stop on the remote does, but there are also other ways that we can emergency stop. So we could connect to the board over Wi-Fi, like the actual Jetson board over Wi-Fi, and then stop that way. Like, there's lots of options, but I need to figure something like that out before I get into too much trouble. But anyway, I think that's a good stopping point for now. We're learning, we're figuring stuff out. If you are buying a G1 or you're going to do software development, hopefully there was at least some information here for you that can help you get started a little quicker. If you are interested in this, you can feel free to message me. My DMs are open on Twitter. You can email me, whatever. I'll be happy to share some thoughts and stuff. If you have one and you have some suggestions to me, please feel free to reach out, leave a comment, whatever. Always interested to learn more about this. So anyway, I think that's all for now, and we will see you in another video.